There, my name is Heather Feather. I am the owner of Rare Bird Medicine, and today's topic is death's door. Knock, knock. Anybody home? That is a door I've been knocking at for a very, very long time. I remember even as a little girl, I would see all these spirits in my room, and it would freak me out so bad. These like disembodied heads bobbing around my room. But now we're old friends, so it's fine. Today is Halloween. It's October 31st, 2024. Lots of kids are going to get to have candy, or maybe they might be a strange bird like I am and deciding that this is their all-time favorite holiday. I love the idea of being close to the spirit world, and I love the idea of getting candy while it was happening. I've always loved this holiday, and perhaps you do too. There are many pagans. Pagan is an umbrella term for those that you might refer to as witches. There's a huge wide range of the category of what is called witches. Some people prefer the term neo-pagan or modern-day pagan. But there's cosmic witches. There are Christian witches. There are Buddhist witches. There are hedge witches or green witches, kitchen witches. And then there's also Wiccans, people that kind of diverged away from the word witch because of the derogatory sense that's ascribed to that word and how many people don't understand it. But there's all these little subterms, and the umbrella term is pagan. And so pagans, or that term used to mean country dweller, people that lived in the country and provided herbology and healing medicine from nature. They typically celebrate what's called All Hallows Eve, or Samhain. Samhain is spelled Samhain. So if you, like the Misfits, or are familiar with Danzig, when he left the Misfits, he created Danzig and Samhain. Samhain, Samhain, is pronounced Samhain. But when I started studying pagan philosophy when I was 13, I saw this word as Samhain, and I read it and spoke it as Samhain for 4 decades, probably. I mean, I recently learned it's Samhain. And so now I say it that way. I think Samhain is a more fun word to say. But Samhain, Samhain, All Hallows Eve, Halloween, that range is typically October 30th to October 31st. And then you have Dia de los Muertos, November 1st through November 2nd. It's a beautiful celebration of life because it is believed that the veil is very thin, not only for pagans, but also for those that would celebrate Dia de los Muertos. It's in several South American countries. Mexico is a predominant one. And so this is where you would go to connect with your ancestors. So tonight I've set up a candle. I used a gold candle. I carved ancestors, ally spirits, Elohim, divines, spirit guides. And I lit it and put it in the window along with my chalice full of apple juice and some of the dinner that I made tonight and some desserts. And I opened the window and invited the ally spirits in and cast out the unwanted from my physical temple, my cat's temple, my home, unwanted out. Blessed light of love, light of truth, those ally spirits that I love. Knock, knock. Come on in. I'm knocking on death's door. You're welcome in here, my ally spirits, my ancestors. And so, this year I've been doing more of a Dia de los Muertos celebration of my brother's life. His death anniversary is October 27th. And I went to a Dia de los Muertos event, and he was very funny. He's one of the silliest people I'll probably ever know. So I feel more compelled to celebrate his life. I also grieve. The reason I want to talk about death's door is, first of all, not everyone believes that we have a spirit or that we have a soul. So to some people, we're just worm food or ash. That's it. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. YOLO, you only get one life, or you only get one shot. Some people believe you do have a soul, but you only get one shot, and then that's it. But you better look alive. Look alive while you're alive. You get one shot at it. There are many different philosophies that we have about the pathway that can lead to what's called death's door. Am I ashes to ashes, dust to dust? Am I flesh that rots off the bone, which is going to be true for all of us because death coming like a freight train? Or am I something more than that? Do I have an eternality, and am I in the eternal plane forever after I have this one life passage? Or do I die again and again and again and again? Am I always knocking on that door? Do I find that I go from flesh costume to flesh costume, from gender to gender, from sexual identification to sexual identification, from different matrix to different matrix, so that I, as a being in Matrix, am able to experience every facet of how I could potentially express the isness of the I am that I am. And teach their own. There's lots of lots of ways to believe none is right or wrong. There's lots of blades of grass. There's lots of types of clouds. There's lots of baubles or coins or types of money. There's lots of types of faces and cultures and philosophies and money. If there's anything I can say about divinity or the nature of the way life tends to flow, diversity tends to be a foundational thing that we can see and know in every aspect of this thing called life that I cast my gaze upon. There is an amazing show on Netflix that I mentioned before called Surviving Death. So if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it because it does start to touch on this topic of what is death's door, what's going on at death's door. And I started to really touch this topic when my mom suddenly died in a car accident right before my 25th birthday. I went to the library all the time. I love libraries. I've always loved them. I mean, I love the idea of access to free information. And this is a period of my life when I usually had like 7 books next to my bed. I was just studying. I had like a voracious appetite for knowledge. I think this is part of being neurodivergent, is definitely having special interest. And death is one of my huge special interests. I'm very curious about it. I'm curious about how all people relate to it. I'm curious about what is it, what happens. But I came to the conclusion that the people that know best what is at death's door are those that have died. Now, we call them near-death experiences as if to imply that there are two-leggeds here that get close to death, but they don't quite make it, and they have stories to tell about it. But they actually, based on science and based on scientific fact, they died. And so they're essentially, a reanimated corpse. Maybe we should call them reanimated corpses. I don't know. But they died. And some of them were without access, having no access to oxygen for 60 minutes, or things that our science says is not viable. You would have to be brain dead if you didn't get oxygen. And so we have volumes and volumes and volumes of what we could call burden of proof around the topic called near-death experiences, around the topic called reincarnation, around different topics of what can be available, knock, knock, at death's door. And so, a lot of people, I did a video called Atheist and Scientific, and often people can't hear me. And so some atheists responded, burden of proof. It's like, this video is about the burden of proof. It's about the volumes of information you can go and find where research has been done, where, there are children that are under the age of 7 that can completely draw a World War II plane. They can tell you what outfit they wore. They can tell you what their name was. They can tell you how they died. And then you can go look up that information, and everything they've said is true. Somebody by that name died in that way in World War II, flying that plane with that outfit on. And so there's a point at which you kind of have to ignore the burden of proof to pretend like death is not a door, that there's something that passes beyond it, because there's so many volumes of scientific proof of something occurring beyond what we call dead. Many, many books written on it. And I found this so riveting. Like I couldn't stop studying it because I really wanted to figure out what happened to my mom. The number one thing I've learned is that most people right at the point of death, they will experience what they believe to be true. So if you're atheist and you believe nothing's going to happen, it would really freak you out if you, wound up in heaven with 70 virgins, let's say, it's the most comfortable thing that can occur for anyone's psyche at the point of death is for them to immediately experience what they believed in their life to be true. And that would cause them to not have a psychotic break when they get to the other side. And then to have a gradual integration into what one could call absolute truth or the truth, as opposed to a truth or individual truth, the individual truth you've been living. The reason I want to talk about death's door is because there are volumes of people in the modern age that are not connecting to their dead. And this is so sad to me. I mean, I have a lot of people that tell Heather Feather throughout her life, thank you so much. My brother tells me all the time, he's like, you're going to be dead in a blink of an eye. Like, Focus up on this. You came to this life to do this. And it's like, yeah, but some of us came to do this life and to be a gateway, to stand in death's doorway, one hand holding Osiris's hand and one hand touching the sun. We a little bit are split between the moon and the sun, or the unseen and the seen realm. Some of us really stand in that really thin veil. And so the veil is thin in the sense that our psychic sight is heightened at this time, as well as the unseen realm can become more visible, clairvoyance may become more activated, and we have a greater access, due to even our collective consciousness, to commune with the dead. I know a lot of dope people. I mean, there's certain things we get blessed with. I wasn't blessed with a ton of prosperity in this life. I continue to work really, really hard and evolve my prosperity consciousness and my finances. But prosperity was not my grace growing up in this life. Resources, being provided for, or love life. I would not call that my grace in this life. It's been an interesting, continuous lesson. And thank you. I'm grateful to learn. But what I can say is that I have amazing family. That has been a huge liquid gold to me, is my family. I love them dearly. And very completely. And I have amazing friends, and I know amazing people. And that has always been true. I've always had access. Divinity's always seen fit to just surround me with unbelievable people. Now, trust, I've had a lot of nightmare lesson humans too, but I just mean the humans that really get to be in my nest or be around me. My friends, my family are unbelievable humans, and so many of them I aspire to. I'm like, wow, I really love how honorable that person is. My brother was very honorable. May I hold honor in the way that he did. May I make that a priority in the way that he did. May I hold discipline. I've always had a lot of discipline, but brother was very disciplined as well. May I hold discipline in the way that he did. May I hold compassion and generosity and tenderness and love and depth of love like my mother did. And one of the ways I can continue to step into sharing and offering more of the frequency of the teachings of those that have poured their bounty into my baskets is to continue to commune with them, continue to connect with them. You can always close your eyes and go within to your inner temple of light and take a moment. Some books will say, don't bother the dead at this time. But I think that's goofy. It's like making weird rules as if the spirit world is over there and we're over here and we shouldn't interact. It's like, we already are interacting. I don't think Heather Feather is just inhabiting this body. I think my soul is much larger than just this physical incarnation. Oversoul 7, written by Jane Roberts, is kind of this construct where you live in 7 incarnations at one time. So I could be a 13th century French painter right now, as well as this woman talking to you on this video, as well as reading the Akashic records in Greece, as well as being in Africa in my dharmic profile, meditating in the pyramids. So my soul is so large that it inhabits multiple timelines at once. And it's also on the other side as an oversoul, overseeing, stirring all those pots all at once. That makes more sense to me for our spirits to have a greater largesse, if we're going to consider divinity to have a great largesse, and as above, so below, or I and the Father are one, or any of these concepts that we hear echoed through the annals of time. I would imagine I have an equal largesse. And I digress. The point I want to make in this is that you have access to those that have crossed over. And so you can go within, you can speak to them, and you can listen and be present with them, even though they're not in their flesh costume. You can connect. You can ask questions. My friend Faladay Speaks was able to get her grandmother's recipe through her ability to attune and commune with her ancestors. She is Yoruba, and so she practices kind of the Ifa Orisa African practices of the Yoruba peoples. And that's very ancestor-based worship. And because she connects so much to her ancestors, she's able to pull recipes out and make her grandmother's cake. And so there's a lot of practical knowledge that we can reconnect to if we but choose. You can always subscribe to Rare Bird Medicine on YouTube, like and comment there. I always love to hear your thoughts, and I offer lots of services at rarebirdmedicine.com. Amun.